Welcome back to Red True Crime. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. Kidnappings have terrified and fascinated us for centuries. They shatter families, they spark manhunts, they change laws, and sometimes leave mysteries that never resolve. Today, we're diving into the full history of high profile abductions, cases that gripped nations and shaped investigators, and also shaped investigations. But we'll end with a case unfolding right now. And that's the suspected kidnapping of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of NBC's Savannah Guthrie. And as of February 8th, 2026, she is still missing. Ransom notes are circulating, and time is running out. So sit back, and we'll be going to a deep dive here. Well, let's start at the very beginning. So, some of the earliest high profile kidnappings date back to the 19th century. In 1836, 9-year-old Cynthia Ann Parker was taken by the Comanche chief, Quanah Parker. And this was happening in Texas. She integrated into the tribe, married a chief, and had children, including future leader Quanah Parker. Now, when rescued years later, she never fully readjusted and died heartbroken in 1871. Now we're going to fast forward to 1874. Charlie Ross, a 4-year-old in Philadelphia, was lured away with candy and fireworks. His father received ransom demands but refused to pay publicly. Charlie vanished forever, possibly the first major U.S. ransom case. It birthed the warning, don't take candy from strangers. And then we have in 1900, Eddie Cudahy Jr., son of meatpacking millionaire, was abducted in Omaha, and a $25,000 ransom was paid, equivalent to nearly $1 million today. And he was released unharmed. The kidnapper was acquitted in a sensational trial. But let's get into the early 20th century. 1911 brought the heartbreaking disappearance of Elsie, I'm not even sure how to pronounce her last name, Powerbeck in Chicago. Now, this case, her body was found strangled in a canal a month later, but no arrests were ever made. And then we get into some that have been somewhat sensationalized on film. The case of Bobby Dunbar in 1912, a 4-year-old that vanished on a fishing trip in Louisiana. I've actually talked about this case before, did a deep dive on it about a year ago. Months later, a boy was found with a handyman who claimed he was family. The Dunbars took him back, but DNA in 2004 proved it wasn't Bobby. The real child's fate, no one knows. But these early cases showed how kidnappings could exploit grief and confusion, setting the stage for the most infamous of all. And that would be the Lindbergh baby. In 1932, the world watched in horror as 20-month-old Charles Lindbergh Jr. was snatched from his New Jersey nursery. A ladder, a ransom note, $50,000 paid, but the toddler's body was found weeks later, killed shortly after the abduction. Bruno Hauptmann was convicted and executed in 1936 after spending marked bills. The trial was a media circus, and the trial was a media circus leading to the Lindbergh Law, making interstate kidnapping a federal crime. This case defined kidnapping terror in America. Bear with me just one moment. Okay. So we go from him to one that was sensationalized in the 60s. 1963, Frank Sinatra Jr. was taken from his Lake Tahoe hotel room. $240,000 in ransom was paid, and he was released unharmed. The amateur kidnappers were caught after one bragged, convicted, and imprisoned. And this one was made into a high profile movie. 1973, John Paul Getty III, grandson of oil billionaire, and was kidnapped in Rome. His ear was severed and sent as proof. Getty Sr. initially refused to pay the $17 million ransom, paying $2.9 million instead. Teen was released and traumatized and died young in 2011. In fact, John Paul Getty III is the father of Hollywood actor Balthazar Getty. It was real popular in the late 80s and the 90s. And then we get into an even more high profile kidnapping of Patty Hearst. So in 1974, 19-year-old Patty Hearst, granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst, was abducted by the Symbionese Liberation Army in Berkeley. They demanded food for the poor, and her family complied partially. 2 months later, Hearst joined them, robbing banks under the name of Tanya, and was captured in 1975, convicted, but her sentence was commuted by Jimmy Carter and pardoned by Bill Clinton. Stockholm Syndrome or coercion, the debate goes on. And then we get to the Chowchilla school bus kidnapping that happened in 1976. 26 children and their driver buried alive in a quarry van. They escaped after 16 hours. The perpetrators demanded $5 million, but were caught and sentenced to life and were later paroled. So now let's get into the more recent of memory kidnappings. Bear with me just another second while I pull this up. J.C. Duggard was taken in 1991 in California and held for 18 years by Philip and Nancy Garrido. He had 2 daughters by him. Discovered in 2009 after a campus sighting, Garrido got 431 years and Nancy 36 to life. JC received millions in settlement and wrote a memoir, which is beyond traumatizing. I cannot even imagine living with your kidnapper that long and having his children. Yeah, like I said, I've never read her book, but it's one that I think anybody in true crime should probably read, you know. Let's see. Now let's get to Amber Hagerman. 1996. Amber Hagerman, 9, abducted while biking in Texas. Her body found days later, unsolved. But it created the Amber Alert system, saving over 1,000 children. So this is the child that created the Amber Alert system. Her case alone has saved many, many children. So we always need to remember her, Amber Hagerman. Because sometimes we see these Amber Alerts, all these different alert systems, but no one ever knew where they came from. This is the case that started that. So never forget Amber Hagerman, because I know her family never did. And every child that is saved because of the Amber Alert system will always remember Amber Hagerman is the one who created that. So after Amber Hagerman, we have Elizabeth Smart. Let me pull her up really quick. Yep, Elizabeth Smart. So Elizabeth Smart, 14, this happened in 2002, taken from her Utah bedroom, held 9 months by Brian David Mitchell and Wanda Barzee, rescued after recognition in public. Mitchell got life. Barzee served 15 years. And this one just shocked me beyond belief. The kidnapping of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus in Cleveland, they were held for over a decade. And Berry escaped in 2013 with her daughter, fathered by Castro, Ariel Castro, leading to rescue. Castro was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years, but died by suicide soon after. And this is a case that's coming up that has been in the news media here recently. Madeleine McCann vanished in 2007 from a Portuguese resort apartment at age 3. still missing, ongoing investigation. So, as you keep getting these stories about young women that would be the age if, Madeline would be now, claiming to be Madeline. And DNA test prove that it's not her. It's been heartbreaking for her families. I'm sure it's reliving the trauma over and over and over again because is their daughter alive or is she gone? No one knows. So now let's go ahead and get to the case that is the topic of every news channel, every YouTube channel, every person who writes media, the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie. So, as of February 8th, today, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today co anchor Savannah Guthrie, plus siblings Annie and Cameron, remains missing from a Catalina foothills home in Tucson, Arizona. So, on January 31st, 2026, she was last seen around 9:48 p.m. after a family dinner and games. She was dropped off at home, and garage door closes at 9:50 p.m. February 1st, family reports her missing after she misses church. Signs of struggle, blood on the porch, and we've heard that the DNA is confirmed that it's Nancy's blood. And the doorbell camera was disconnected. Pima County Sheriff's Department and FBI lead, but there's still, at this point, no suspects or persons of interest named. Now, there's been some false stories saying, oh, well, it was the son in law of Nancy Guthrie, which would be the husband of her daughter, Annie, is involved. Or, now maybe the brother, Nancy Guthrie's son, Cameron, is involved. You hear a lot of these stories, but there is no evidence. There's been nothing stating either of these people are involved in her disappearance. Extensive searches, canines, drones, helicopters, blood evidence, possible forced entry, which they have not been clear on that. And the upsetting thing is Nancy needs daily meds for her heart and blood pressure and has a pacemaker, so time is critical. Then we hear about the multiple ransom notes sent to the media, to TMZ, to KOLD, and KGUN. Demands in Bitcoin. Latest reported $6 million Monday, which is tomorrow, February 9th, by 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So that would be 7 p.m. Eastern Time, with threats to her life. Now, earlier notes had Thursday and Monday deadlines, mentioned specific home details, damaged property, Apple Watch location, and they did this for credibility. And FBI has been analyzing the authenticity, but there's not been any proof of life given yet. One fake note led to an arrest, but others taken seriously. So, and we've seen the appeals, from Savannah, Annie, and Cameron released emotional videos. We will pay, begging for her safe return. President Trump has commented the probe had strong clues and offered federal help. Billboards with tip lines going up in nearby states. This case, let me tell you, the current status is the search has expanded to family properties, no resolution. Investigators believe she was taken against her will as early February 1st, and the case has gripped the nation, drawing parallels to historical abductions, hence my timeline of things that I've been talking about. But let me say this. I think when it comes to Nancy Guthrie, now I'm not a detective. I have no experience in investigating cases, none. This is just me giving my opinion. She lived alone. Her property was kind of, a lot of space in between her and her neighbors. I think whoever took her has ties to the Guthrie family. And I'm thinking, like, they need to look into any home healthcare people, anybody who's done work on the property, like gardeners, any handymen, anything like that. I think they need to look into these people because whoever has taken her knows the inside of this house, knows how to access the house, and knows what's around her immediately. So I think it's somebody tied in like that. I don't think it's family, but I think it's somebody who has worked with the family. And I think the other thing they need to look into is, or what I'm trying to figure out is how on earth are they gonna do this exchange? AI and media and cameras and digital whatever. This is gonna be hard. And what's weird is that the latest plea where they said, the family plea saying, "They'll let her go or we'll pay. We wanna celebrate with her one more time." I'm wondering if the family is preparing themselves that she may not be alive when they find her, if she's found. Weird wording that they use in that last plea. So, but like I said, I think whoever has her is somebody that the Guthries already know. That's what I think. So, kidnappings leave scars that last generations. From Lindbergh to Guthrie, they remind us how vulnerable we really, really are and how relentless families and law enforcement must be. If you have tips on Nancy Guthrie, contact the FBI or Pima County Sheriff's tip line. But what do you think happened? Comment below, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true crime. And stay safe out there. And this is Red True Crime until next time. But like I said, let me know what you all think. What do you think? Who you think is involved? Is she still alive? I hope she is. And until next time, like I said, be weird, be rude, be safe. And this is Rebecca. I'm out. Bye, everybody, and enjoy the game.